year, the staff and faculty here at the University of La Verne select one book for the incoming class to read. This book is chosen to represent our university's 4 core values: ethical reasoning, diversity and inclusivity, lifelong learning, and civic and community engagement. This year, my fellow first-year students and I read Nobody Needs to Know, a memoir by intersex activist and artist Pidgeon Pagonis. The book follows their struggles growing up intersex, of coming to accept themselves in a world governed by an unbending gender binary. But despite being told that their identity was something to hide, Pidgeon has shared their experiences to advocate for the intersex community through their artwork and features in educational videos online. As a co-founder of the Intersex Justice Project, they have fought for the bodily autonomy of intersex youth and to end the shame and stigma felt by intersex adults today. They were featured on the cover of National Geographic's Gender Revolution special issue and were honored as an LGBT champion of change in the Obama White House. As a queer individual myself, I am grateful to them for having the courage it has taken to tell their story, as stories like theirs are ones that we do need to know. It is so isolating to grow up surrounded by a normal that you do not feel you fit into, until you can find those who share that exact feeling. I would like to thank Pidgeon for being here today, and it is an honor to introduce them to you. Please join me in welcoming Pidgeon Pagonis.
Hi, everybody. Huh? Oh no, I wasn't even doing that. I thought someone said I love your shoes. No, okay, I made that up. Hello. That was you're so good at speaking. Like, I wish I had that diction and cadence. That was just, thank you so much for everything. Thank you, everyone. Thank you literally to every single, I think there's 167 people that helped bring me here. So thank you to every 167 people that brought me here today. Thank you to all you guys for being here. And if you were here earlier, thank you for that as well. So, how long do I have? An hour? Okay. What do you guys want? Do you want a presentation? Do you want to hear something I found recently that basically became the book you read? But it's like from 15 years ago. It was my idea for the book. It's kind of cool. And I also want to show you a 15-minute film. Third option. You know what? I'm just going to do it because I know this is too hard for you. I'll figure out what I'm going to do. Okay. All right. Do you guys feel like you know what intersex is after you read my book? All right. So intersex is a term for people born with sex traits or sex characteristics that defy a common understanding of sex as a simple binary of either male or female. Got it? That was for you. So these sex traits can be our gonads, they can be reproductive organs, they can be genitalia, they could be chromosomes, they could be hormones, or it could be a mixture of all these things that makes somebody intersex when somebody falls outside of society's predefined binary. This is a little illustration of the genitalia in a fetus before the baby gets to like the 9th month. All babies start off with what's called bipotentiality. So all babies start out with genitalia that looks the same, no matter what their chromosomes are. And it's called bipotential, so it can go either way. So the tissue that's called gonadal tissue will either stay put and become ovarian, or it'll drop and become testicular. Gold star, gold star. Same thing with the clitoral tissue. It'll either stay put and become clitoris, or it will enlarge and get even bigger. And what will that be called? Yes. I just wanted to make you guys say penis. And the list goes on. So has anyone ever seen a ball sack before? I love the honesty. Anyone else seen a ball sack before? Okay, I unfortunately have too. I was straight for a minute back in high school, or I thought I was. And I seen that thing. And that thing had a line in it, right? Has anyone seen that little line? It's kind of in the middle-ish. Looks like a little zipper, like zzz. Someone sewed it up. Looks like someone sewed it up, right? Why do you think that looks like that? Think about what we're talking about. Bipotentiality, the same tissue, etc., etc. Take a wild guess. Don't worry about being wrong. Come on, say what you're whispering out loud. Yes. Yes, the labia. So it starts out like looking like labia, but then if the kid has an XY chromosome, usually it will see the gonads come down, and then the labia, what looked like labia, wraps around and fuses. So that's the fused labial tissue. So we all start out life, intersex or not, male or female or whatever, looking the same basically, with the same tissue. We have what's called I would actually call it, what's the prefix Latin for multiple or a million or like infinity, huh? Like instead of what could be multi-potentiality? Is there a better word? Poly. Who's poly? Because I'm trying to date. Hello? Anyone poly? You are? I'm monogamous, which sucks for dating. It makes it harder. But polypotentiality, okay? We all have that. I like to say if female children designated female at birth, a nice little way to remember, if you could think of girls as gas cars, you could think of boys as electric cars, and you could think of intersex people as a hybrid. So there's a little bit of both, or a mixture of everything going on. Intersex people, I like to say, because it's easier to remember, you like that? Are born too cute to be binary. It's just easier than what I said before with the binary and the sex characteristics and all that. It's also a phrase I came up with to help non-binary people feel proud and feel cute, and it's a clothing line I started. But I just adapted to intersex too, because I think intersex, the biological sex of intersex, I think is a non-binary sex. And I think we're just too cute to be binary. There are over 20 variations of intersex. There's probably a poly amount. There's probably a billion. But we know about 20 plus right now. We come out on average the percentage of intersex people in the world is between 0.5 and 1.7% of the human population. That is as common as people born with green eyes, born with red hair. That's the same amount of people, I think, in the whole country of Japan or the state of Minnesota. It's a lot of people. Yeah, it's that many people. It's a lot of people, millions. So what's the issue? I skipped that slide because we're going to do a lot extra stuff today than just this slideshow. What is the issue? Anyone know what the issue is? You read my book, you probably know. Yes.
So about intersex people generally speaking, from what I guess it's the medical terms where basically if you are born an intersex person, they try to mold you into either a male or a female, what you wrote in your book.
What do they use? What tools do they use or methods do they use?
I'm not really good at pronouncing big words.
I mean, that's good. I don't know why I said good. I will jump in. Thank you so much for the beginning because that was perfect. What I wanted to say is that they use surgery and hormones, and they do all this stuff against our will when we're little kids, usually, to force us into that mold of a normal girl or a normal boy. When in fact, every single thing they do to us is what is abnormal. So in this pursuit of normality, there's the production of abnormality. Hello. Overall, the big issue, the umbrella issue, is that we don't have bodily autonomy. If you've been at any of the things today with me today, we've been talking about or I've been talking about how that's the biggest thing I think we need. We need to come together and fight for bodily autonomy. The women's rights movement that's fighting for access to abortion, the trans movement that's fighting for gender-affirming care, the disability rights movement who's fighting for their bodily autonomy, and intersex people, queer people. We all need to come together under one big tent. I think we're more powerful together and fight and demand for bodily autonomy. Because if you all know, like, this country is supposedly about liberty, justice, freedom for all, right? And bodily autonomy is wrapped up in that. And if we all had bodily autonomy, what's happening to intersex people, it wouldn't be happening. So these are the unnecessary surgeries, which lead to a lot of trauma. So we're gonna watch.
Oh, baby, it's another plant talk. I'm
Lauren.
Dylan. It's the show where I talk to my plants. Today's guest is an orchid plant. Say hi, Orchid.
Hey, it's me. Hello.
Orchid, can I just say, you look stunning right now.
I know I do, right? And listen, I'm feeling myself this year.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because this year, I've got hermaphroditic flowers.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah, baby. Part female, part male. Oh, it's sexy.
For sure.
And when both parts are on the same flower like mine, it's called a perfect flower. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it's perfect.
Makes sense to me.
Listen, in plant world, it's a great honor to have a perfect flower. Plus, everyone wants to be with you. I'm talking about birds, bugs, bats. One time, I hooked up with this lemur.
Hey, I get it.
Well, anyway, how do you celebrate your hermaphrodite people?
Oh, well, in human world, they're called intersex people.
Yeah,
And they do exist.
great.
And, well, we force them to be one gender at birth with non-consensual genital surgery.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Is that real? Y'all really do that? Pero why?
I mean, I'm not the one doing it.
So you're really telling me you have this, but you chose this? Y'all have this and chose this? You have this, but you're playing with this? And you make people pick one or the other?
Well, they don't get to pick. One is forced on them as babies with surgery.
Seriously? What in the fuck am I hearing right now?
Yeah, saying this all out loud makes me realize how fucked it is.
No shit. So then what happens to those babies when they grow up? Are they happy with their surgeries?
Nah, almost all of them have a pretty terrible time.
Why not just wait until they grow up and let them decide if they want surgery or not?
That is a completely reasonable solution.
Yeah, I don't even have a brain and I know it's the right thing to do.
I guess people think that assigning a set gender will make their lives easier just because there's so much stigma about not fitting into one box or the other.
Listen, being the way I am isn't just about representing two sides of a binary. It's about embodying a vast and vibrant liminal space to have the mystery and magnitude of gender in all its splendid variety imbued into your very form. Well, it's a blessing beyond words.
That's so beautiful.
I know, right? Beauty and brains right here.
I thought you said you didn't have a brain.
Dylan, has anything been done about this?
I don't know.
Well, look it up.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like an organization called the Intersex Justice Project got a hospital to stop performing these surgeries for the first time anywhere ever.
That's so cool. When did that happen?
Just a few months ago.
Y'all are slow as hell doing what's right, huh?
Yeah, that's kind of our thing.
Well, is there anything I can do to help?
Nah, I don't think so.
Let me see for myself.
How are you typing without fingers?
Okay, looks like you can help support a bill in California that protects intersex people.
Cool.
Or tell the New York City Council to pass inclusive education.
Absolutely.
Or you can check out some of the advocacy groups making progress on intersex issues. I even put it in a nice little list for you. You're welcome.
Well, it's good to know there's a way to help a cause with such an obvious solution, right?
Totally. And I hope one day y'all treat intersex babies with the same care and adoration you give to flowers, even if they're not perfect like me.
Well, I did kind of forget to mention what we do to most flowers.
Huh? What are you talking about?
We cut a bunch of them up and wrap them in bouquets and give them to each other as a sign of affection.
Okay, so it's a little tongue-in-cheek, a little light, little comedy. That was something I did with someone named Dylan, and I just love their style of talking to plants. I hope you enjoyed that. Because this could be a really heavy topic. If you guys came to the talk earlier, if you read the book, if you were in the classroom this morning, it's a really intense topic. So I like to bring like comedy or laughter to it as well to teach and educate. So what has the response been to the problem or the main issue that's going on with intersex people? What has intersex people's and the public's response been? Well, since 1990, well, even before 1996, in the early 90s, there started a group in California, Northern California, called Intersex Society of North America. Then a few years later, they had their first protest in 1996 in Boston, outside of the American Pediatric Association. And they linked arm in arm with Transsexual Menace, another group, so it's trans people and intersex people together, fighting to depathologize intersex. And it's why, does it say, October 26th, you see in the top left corner. It's why this Saturday, the 26th, is why we celebrate Intersex Awareness Day, because of this protest. So this group was a bunch of intersex people led by Beau Laurent, who used to go by Cheryl Chase and lives in Northern California. Became this big advocacy group doing amazing work, and one of their protests was this one. They have a banner that says Hermaphrodites with Attitude. That was their name of their newsletter at the time, which was actually a printed out newsletter that they had to mail in the mail. I almost said email. And this was the amazing groundbreaking advocacy that happened in the early 90s with intersex. They were fighting to end these surgeries from day one. They said, we're fine, your surgeries are what's wrong, we need to end those. Some 20 years later, there's groups like Intersex Justice Project, which if you read the book is the one I co-founded, with Saifa and Linnell. Linnell's also that person that spoke in my class the first time that I met another intersex person in the book, mentioned in the book. Ellie's actually in this picture, I'm pretty sure. Ellie, are you in there? Oh, I see you. You got teal hair. So this was part of the protest that we did each year in front of Lurie Children's Hospital. We looked back at the history and said, hey, they used to do protests in the street. Now they're doing a lot of other work, but it doesn't seem to be working. Let's bring the protests back to the streets. So Intersex Justice Project joined with other people in the city of Chicago, and we did these protests year after year, usually on Intersex Awareness Day, in front of a hospital called Lurie Children's Hospital, which is the one I went to as a kid. So thanks to this activism, I mean, there was so much activism between what I showed you. I just showed you 2 goalposts. But thanks to the amazing activism and advocacy of every single intersex person and activist and our allies, we have so many great allies, but not enough, we need more. Every major human rights organization in the entire world that's looked at this issue has come out on our side, has said that these surgeries are human rights violations. The United Nations themselves have come out multiple times saying these are human rights violations and the member states need to end them. But as we all know by looking at Palestine, when the UN says something, it doesn't really mean anyone's gonna really listen. But thank you, UN, that was really nice. So on July 20th, 2020, Lurie actually, after 5 or 6 years of these protests and this mounting campaign, I don't know if you remember in the book, we got this campaign, and then all of a sudden celebrities got involved, and then all these people signed our petition, and then a trans doctor who is also a rock and roll musician that goes by the name Supernova as their rock and roll artist name. They were working at Lurie at the time, and they came to some of our protests, and then they became the first person to speak out that worked at a hospital where these surgeries were happening, and became the first worker or doctor that I knew from within a hospital that's doing these surgeries to speak out against them. They went on Twitter and said, we need to end intersex surgery. That's our hashtag for the campaign back then. And here's the petition, you need to sign it. And then like 3 or 4 other employees spoke out publicly. And then I found out internally employees were working on our behalf as well. And then on July 20th, we got an email from the surgeon, the lead surgeon that did the surgeries, named Dr. Earl Chang, and others at the hospital apologizing, which was one of our demands, was to give an apology to intersex people that they've harmed. And they said that they were going to end the surgeries. So to sum everything up, intersex people's bodies are not the problem. The surgeries are. It's kind of like disability rights movement. They'll say, my body, the way it is not the issue. The issue is the way that society is not built for us, that we've been left out. Same goes for intersex. I'm just skipping some longer parts because I want to get to a film. So 3 takeaways: intersex people are born too cute to be binary. These surgeries are human rights violations, and not everyone is an electric car or a gas car. Some people are hybrids, and that's about 2% of the population, equal to the amount of redheads in the world. So, I am going to, okay. Would you guys like me to read something, or would you like to, oh, this is gonna be hard, I know. Because you don't know like what I'm reading or what the film is like. Raise of hands, who wants to see a 15-minute short film that has my life in it, my mom's in it, and some other intersex people? Raise your hand. Oh, wow, yeah, you don't want to read. Okay, who wants me to read something? Okay, yes, thank you. Literature department, rhetoric and writing, yes, yes. Okay, I'll read a little bit of what I wrote, but I'll show the film. Actually, I don't think you can film this part just because it's licensed or whatever, but anyone have any initial reactions? Or any thoughts or reactions? Can I get one? Yeah, Brock?
It's really cool to see some of the characters.
Oh yeah, there's the microphone. Oh, you thought it was cool to see some of the characters come alive from the book and see their faces, you said? My mom, right? Linnell. My mom, I really love her in the film. That was the first time she was using they, them pronouns for me, so I was like off camera, like, they, and she's like, oh, shoot, and then she was like, okay, they, and Pidgeon was the first time she was using Pidgeon a lot instead of Jen, my birth name. I think what she said is just so beautiful and wonderful. Anything else? Anyone? Yeah.
Half the world really doesn't know the fact that, like, their children are this or that, and like it's really hard for them to choose or decide. And like I don't like the fact that like doctors and surgeons like use fear tactics, like saying like your child's gonna have cancer.
Yes.
And like to provoke them in order to like do this surgery to make them a male or to do this surgery to make them a female.
Thank you.
And like I really found that really interesting.
Thank you. I just, yeah. Anything else? Anybody want to add anything else? Yeah. Oh, there's pictures of me when I was a kid? Oh, okay, yeah. You like that?
Yes, to see the force of gender, like on everything that you were doing. Right?
Yeah.
Trying to be the normal girl.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the title, A Normal Girl. Good job. Extra credit. Yes.
I just want to thank you for being so young and coming out and speaking on behalf of all of these intersex
You're welcome.
that are out there. And I found it really interesting how your mom stepped up. I'm curious to know what her thought process was in the beginning when you were first born, why they chose to say it was a cancer issue, and was it based on a cultural thing or?
No.
Okay.
Well, the culture of doctors and the culture of secrecy and paternalism and frankly, the history of medical violence against so many, groups of people that don't have power in our society, in our world. Like, I'm sure we're all familiar with the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, where they injected syphilis into black folks without telling them, treated them as guinea pigs. What they've done to Puerto Rican women and other brown women in terms of testing now and using them as guinea pigs for birth control. The ways in which, gynecology, the father of gynecology is known as, or is a man named Dr. Sims, Dr. J. Marion Sims. And he became famous for coming up with a procedure to fix fistulas. It's like I think a rupture in the vaginal walls, I think. He used enslaved black women who didn't have, without anesthesia, to perfect his techniques. And today, there's statues of him sometimes in cities. He's known as the father of gynecology, but that history gets erased of what he did to women like Betsy and a woman named Anarcha and others. So there's a long history of medical violence against people. Look at what they did to people with lobotomies. Do you guys know what a lobotomy is? I'm sure. I think it's on TikTok a lot. But that was real. There was a time, not that long ago, that was just the thing. So that's how this will be looked at in the future, is what was done to intersex kids. People will be like, what? Just let them decide. What is going on with you all? Any other comments? Yeah.
In the film, it says that at a young age, 10, 11, you were being pumped with female hormones. Were you aware?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then, sorry, I'm going to do both. You had said, is it cultural? So I was saying it's the culture of the doctors. So if you actually pull up medical textbooks, there says, tell the parents the kid has cancer in their ovaries. So it's literally written in literature, that's what you do. When I say paternalism, I mean it. These men in the 50s decided this is what's going to happen, and then they just did it. And then it went across the whole globe. People that studied in the West or from Western doctors, they adopted that in their countries, and it went all over. This theory, this method of secrecy and surgery, which then created the product of shame. So I always talk about secrecy, surgery, and shame. So they told my mom to say that. And that's supposed to be the convenient lie to cover up the truth. That's why you have a scar on your stomach. That's why you can't have kids. That's why you won't have a period. You had cancer. And the doctor saved your life. And then you look at them with reverence and you never question them. They saved my life. And you had said, did I know? Yes. So when I was in 5th grade, everyone was going through puberty and I was not. I go to the doctor for some other reason, which I think I explained in the film, but it doesn't really matter. It's in the book. And they say, oh, while you're here, you had cancer in your ovaries, and that's why you're not going through puberty, because you don't have ovaries. We took them out and saved your life. Which, again, I never had ovaries, by the way. I had undescended testes, which would have produced testosterone, and it would have allowed me to go through a puberty, but I didn't have that. So they said, here's some medicine. It's going to make you go through puberty, but don't tell anyone. Don't tell your friends. That's your secret. That's your life. It's your personal information. No one except your future husband needs to know, and don't tell him until you're, married. Right. So I did know I was taking hormones. I did know that they would make me go through puberty, but I didn't know why. I thought I had cancer in my ovaries, and this is just something I had to do. And then I had to live with that secret, which created so much shame and pain, because I had to live a lie. So much. Anybody else? Reactions, thoughts, questions? Yeah, please.
Would you ever do an updated version of the documentary now?
Yeah, I'm working on one. It's called, it's loosely titled. It's about intersex healing. Mm-hmm. We filmed the first part this summer, actually, in Northern California. We got a $10,000 or $15,000 grant, and we needed to film a clip so we could keep applying for grants. If you go to intersexjustice.org, I I think that's the website. You can learn about the film there, and you can donate if you would like. But we want it to be a feature-length film that is the first intersex film that doesn't talk about people's surgeries or shame or stigma or pain, or trauma, I should say. We want it to be about how are you healing? What's your healing journey? And I want to meet all these different healers, and I want to meet intersex people who are working on their healing, and I'm also documenting my healing process in the film as well. So on camera this summer, I went to a ketamine clinic that's run by an intersex physician who used to work in like the hospitals and saw how well ketamine was helping people with PTSD and depression, and just opened a clinic and does that full time. So I get that done on camera in the film. I interview the first intersex activists, and we go to the first place where the first intersex retreat ever happened, which was in Northern California, at a wild place that has peacocks running around wild, and there's like, it's called Isis Oasis. It's magical. So yeah, I'm trying to get that film funded, but we need a lot of money. But if you want to help, you could DM me, email me, or go to the website. Any other things? Any other questions? Does everyone have a picture of this in case you need my email or my Instagram? Please, if you took videos or pictures today, please DM me and tag me, because for the past years and years, I've just stopped. I don't know if I got embarrassed or something, but I stopped documenting the work that I do, and now I'm suffering because of it. I need to show people what I'm doing so I can keep getting hired. So please tag me or send me anything. Okay. Can you turn my screen on? Oh, no, actually, I think it's fine. No, you can see what I'm reading. That will help you follow along, maybe. So I'm on the plane coming here, and I find this document called Workshop Piece Memory. Oh, before I say this, I want to say something, too. The biggest takeaway I want you guys to take away today. Takeaway. Oh, yeah. Have you all heard of the anti-trans bills? Anti-gender affirming care bills? There's over 1,000 that have been proposed in the past 5 years. More than 1,000. And hundreds have passed, where kids are not allowed to get gender affirming care, trans kids, trans youth. But guess what? That's bad enough. But in over 85% of those bills, there is language in them with specific carve-outs in the bill to keep doing the surgeries to intersex people. Now, the proponents of the anti-trans bills will tell you it's about protecting the kids. But yet, they're not allowing the kids and the young adults who want the surgeries, who need the hormones and want the care, and their doctors agree and their families agree, and they consent to it, to have access to it. But they're saying, now force those same surgeries and those same hormones on kids who can't even talk. It's wild. So I need to underscore that everywhere I go, because y'all are the future generation. Some of you might be president, one of you might be president one day. One of you might be in Congress. So I need y'all to keep, senators, I need you to keep us in mind as intersex people and do all that you can and just speak about that. Tell people about the hypocrisy of those bills. It's not about protecting kids. It's about whipping up votes because it gets people who are rightfully angry about things in their life. It gets them to direct their anger at a marginalized group of trans people. And it's the oldest trick in the book. And avoid who's actually causing problems in their lives, which is a handful of billionaires and trillionaires who are hoarding all the wealth in this world. So, and you can follow along with Chase Strangio. Chase Strangio is the first trans lawyer who's going to go to the Supreme Court this fall and fight one of those laws, or a case for the anti-trans bills, to fight against it. And he's doing amazing work. He's with the ACLU. You can follow him on Instagram. Chase, like the bank, Strangio, Strangio. All right, so I share this piece. I want to share parts of this piece because, you can't even read it. 10, 15 years ago, if someone told me I would write a book, I couldn't even write a paper. Like, my skin would crawl. I was one of the worst students. I was the one that was always like, can I have an extension? And then I was like, can I have another extension? And then I was like, can I please have a third extension? Like, me in school were just really hard. I had a lot of trauma. So sitting down and writing and reading and all that, it was hard. I never thought I could write a book, let alone write my school papers. But I went to grad school one year. Wild. And I'll let you guys know, I didn't know this. They paid me to go to school. School was free, and I got money paid. It was like $5,000, but still, I didn't pay. It was great. I didn't know you could do that. So I went there, and my thesis was coming up. And I was like, I had a mentor at the time named Dr. Irene Beck. And she kind of like laid out my whole life in grad school. And she's like, you need to write your story. Has anyone seen the movie Girl Interrupted? Yeah, you're gay. Sorry, it's a fact. It's a fact. Well, I never saw it because I'm straight. But did you guys know it actually started as a book? You know that? Oh, because you're in the writing department. So actually, yeah. So my mentor goes, read the. Oh no. It was my writing. The chair. One of the people on my committee who was in the writing department and said, read this book. Each chapter starts with a medical record of actually what the doctors wrote. I'm sorry, I've been avoiding this side of the. Hi, everybody. And so each chapter starts with a medical record, which has the quote unquote objective truth of biomedical science of what happened. So if the patient got subdued with, lithium or something, they said patient was erratic and we subdued patient with lithium, this many milligrams, patient is now safe or whatever. And then the author, Susanna Kasem, writes the subjective lived experience, her truth, in the next chapter. What actually happened from her perspective. And we all know the biomedical voice gets way more power in our society, or objective truth. You guys are in liberal arts, right? Right? This is liberal arts? Yeah, okay. So we know that we're at war, right, with objective truth. And they're like, oh, you just have subjective truth. That's not the truth. No. And that's what feminists taught us. That's what black women taught us. That's what gay people taught us. Our lived experience is powerful. It goes neck and neck with objective truth. And there is no such thing as objectivity. There's no truth in a vacuum. So somebody in my life was like, you need to write your story like that. And so this was my attempt, or my proposal that I never did. I found it too hard, and I made a film, which is not the one you saw, another film. But it starts like this. Write, they say. It's a practice. It's an art. It's a duty. Write the one thing you're afraid to write. Every time I go to write, I think about how much better to write about someone else and their story. But I can't keep running away from writing me. I feel like I'm suffering when I don't write my story. And writing my story also feels like a sufferable act. Then there is the other excuse I let prevent me from writing. By the way, this is not edited. You're going to see a lot of rough draft stuff. Which is my poor excuse for a memory. I used excuse twice in one sentence. I'd feel safe saying it's the worst memory out of anyone I know. I can't remember details from movies, special memories with significant others, or even the daily rides that one of my best friends from high school recently told me I gave her every day. A few years ago, I started a blog titled, I Want to Remember. The goal was to jot down daily events that I wanted to be able to hold on into the future. I've since forgotten that the blog existed. No joke. This was a while ago, though. My memory is not that great, but I can still remember some things. My sense of smell has always been able to trigger strong memories. Smell must bypass some part of the brain that filters memories set off by the other senses. The smell of the plastic water bottles served at my junior high school cafeteria made my throat close when I was a kid because it reminded my body of one of my surgeries that I had when I was 11 years old. I remember laying on the stretcher being scared about the surgery that was about to happen. Then I remember a person asking me what flavor I'd like my anesthesia to be. For some reason, I felt like I was supposed to feel grateful for this modern convenience of surgery. With a shaky voice, I managed to let the words escape the knot in my throat. Grape, please. All things purple were my favorite back then, as they still are now. So then I talk about the doctors put me under anesthesia. I go under anesthesia. They tell me, think of my favorite place. It's Disney World. In 10 seconds, I'm out. And then the surgery happens, unbeknownst to me because I'm knocked out. There are other smells that trigger memories. A cologne that a boy wore who I dated in high school, Sam, aka Mike, always brings me back to the time in my life where my body learned to become numb. Has anyone heard of Acqua di Gio cologne? Yeah, that's the smell. To this day, I hugged my friend the other day. I was like, "What are you wearing?" And I was like, I was freaking out. The way the air smells because of the decomposing leaves in the fall gives me anxiety and squeezes a belt around my lungs. A friend of mine told me that this is important. A friend of mine told me that the mind, oh Lord, a friend of mine told me that the mind is not limited to the confines of the brain. This made me think that the brain is like a fisherman who casts a net all over our bodies. Our mind is an all-encompassing net liable to be triggered by almost any sense. Brain. So I was doing different senses, I realized, in this workshop. Brain. My father is a good man, but he has a bad memory. Ask him how old any of his children are, and he will stall for a while before guessing the wrong age. Ask him his own age, and he has to call his wife and ask her. He tells us he has CRS, which stands for can't remember shit. In addition to his Y chromosome, I think I've also inherited CRS from him. I can't remember dates, meetings, names, movies, life events, years. This offends some people, especially girls I'm dating. I wish I could explain to them how my brain behaves like a hungry monster that tries to protect me by eating my bad memories, but how lately it has become hungrier and unable to decipher between the bad and the good memories. I wonder what it feels like to have a better memory and whether it's a blessing or a curse. I'm still this way. I cry like all the time when I can't remember things or I can't even remember people's names and I come home and I feel so rude to them, like I feel like I've been rude to them. But I literally can't remember. I will tell somebody I'll say, "Oh my God, I was at this amazing event last week. It was so beautiful." They're like, "Girl, I was with you. I was the only person with you." And that was 7 days. Many people in my life have told me that the human mind tends to forget the bad parts in order to store the good parts of memories. People tend to remember the exhilaration from the drop of a roller coaster, but forget how long and boring the line was. Like computers, our brains have limited storage capabilities, and every once in a while, we have to empty the trash to make room for more. Yet any person good with computers can tell you nothing is ever completely erased from the hard drive. Similar to how computer technicians can see remnants of a past that we thought was gone forever, imprints of everything we have experienced in our life are never completely lost from our mind. Experiences are a result of energy, and memories are a result of experiences. If energy never dissipates and only transforms, then are memories that we can't remember ever truly erased? I don't think so. Instead, I think that memories we can't access as a result of trauma, for instance, are sometimes blocked from our ability to recall them, but live somewhere in the flesh of our bodies. My memory is not something I can trust. It's as if my memories have been thrown into a bowl with dreams, photos, nightmares, movies, and medical records, and were scrambled all together. To decipher what is an actual memory from what is not is like trying to get a broken piece of eggshell out of a bowl of eggs. I loved that. I was like, damn. You can see it in the bowl, but it's almost impossible to retrieve. Oh, I forgot that part. That was the good part, all of that. I'm sure my brain has done what it had to do to survive on a subconscious and complex level that I don't understand. I just wish I got to decide which memories it decided to throw away and which it decided to keep. Then I talk about sight. My pediatrician has a toy koala bear attached to her stethoscope. It hugged the tube that went up and around her neck. Two felt hands glued together, clasping themselves for dear life. It was always the object my eyes latched onto during my appointments. From what I've been told, she noticed something irregular about me during a general checkup. When I was an infant, she told my mom there was something between my legs that seemed off. She used the euphemism swollen to describe my vulva. An appointment was made with the local children's hospital after some blood tests and examinations. I was given a diagnosis of testicular feminization, which, by the way, is wrong. I found out 5 years ago. Up until that point, I was just my parents' little girl. Now, doctors with much more power and education than my parents were throwing around descriptions of my body that made my parents squirm a little bit. What did the word testicular have to do with their little girl? Was their little girl actually a little boy? What would they tell the in-laws? The doctors didn't tell my parents that their little girl was what they called a male pseudo-hermaphrodite. They saved that little gem of information for me to find out on my own when I got a hold of my medical record 18 years later. Instead of telling my parents the truth, they instead engaged my parents into a conversation that included their version of the truth. Below is a fictionalized recreation of how I imagine it all went down. I started college in a screenwriting class. I thought I was going to be a film major. So this is the one thing I did with that one class I took. Fade in, interior, office, afternoon. Doctor sits down and pretends to make notes in his legal pad while looking very important as two young, anxious working-class parents stand before him in 80s attire and hairstyles. Man is of Grecian descent and has a mustache and a mullet. Woman is of Mexican, Grecian, and Albanian descent. Her hair is inspired by hair metal bands and Diana Ross. Doctor, Mr. and Mrs. Pagonis, I presume? Man. Yes, doctor. What seems to be the problem? Doctor, one moment. I am still writing my important notes on your child's peculiar, interesting case. Woman, I can't stand this any longer. Please, doctor, let us know what is wrong with our little girl. Man, she hasn't slept in days, doctor. She has the anxiety, you see. Ah, a neurotic. Exactly. Woman, elbows man. Doctor, writes notes to self. Mother is neurotic and violent towards father. Maybe where child received irregular gene which caused genital virilization. Virilization is a fancy word for masculinization in the body. Doctor, well, I've reviewed the test and examined the child. She is a healthy child with a condition we call testicular feminization. What this means is that your child was on its way to becoming a little girl, but something stunted that process a bit. No worries. Though this is something that the progress of modern medicine is fully capable of fixing. Speak clearly, doctor. What does this all mean for our baby? Doctor, it means that you have a very rare and unique child that will need some surgeries and hormones to get her body back on track to develop the way nature had intended. If left untreated, she will get cancer in her ovaries, around the time puberty sets in. These will have to be removed immediately. Her clitoris is also rather large, which will be sure to create distress for your child as she grows up. If left intact, she may even consider suicide because of this uncertainty. We will have to operate on that as well to reduce the size. But don't worry, we will just remove unnecessary extra tissue. At puberty, you'll have to bring her back in for an appointment, and she will be prescribed hormones in order to develop like her peers. Woman, and what happens when she grows up, doctor? Will she be happy and able to marry a rich man? Everyone was always telling me to marry a rich man. That's what, when you grow up a little broke, that's all your grandma wants for you. She said, but be happy. Get a job too. Get an education. But marry rich. Of course, we have the best plastic surgeons in the industry. No one will be able to tell any difference between her and other women except for the trained medical eye such as my own. The results will be stunning. Man, when do we have to do this, doctor? Doctor, we always recommend doing this before the child turns 2 in order to make sure the child has no memory of this procedure. This is literally also verbatim from the medical textbooks. Woman, and what do we tell her when she starts to ask questions? Doctor, you tell her she had twisted ovaries that were cancerous when she was born. Let her know that we saved her life, but because of this, she will not get a period or be able to have biological children of her own. Let her know that she can always adopt. Under no circumstances do you tell her anything else. It's just not good for her to know too much, okay? Woman and man, okay. So, this part is a part about where I have a panic attack in a restaurant, much like today. I had a breakdown and cried in a restaurant with the dean and the deans and everyone. And then I'm going to close on this last part that I love so much. So I talk about being at an intersex conference in Boston, and I was triggered in the restaurant, and I come back, and there's someone there helping me. During these 3 days with my family at the conference, intersex family, I co-presented a workshop with Eden Atwood on healing sexuality. One of the quotes she shared with everyone, I want you all to go home with this quote. One of the quotes she shared with everyone was about how scars don't form on dead flesh, and therefore scars are indicative that we are alive. It read, quote, "We must see all scars as beauty, okay? This will be our secret, because take it from me, A scar does not form on the dying. A scar means I survived. I think it's from a book called Little Bee, but I put an asterisk because I was going to look it up later. Intersex folks at this conference mostly all have scars on our lower abdomens from our surgeries. A smaller percentage of us have other scars. The mind, Eden reminded us, is not limited by the confines of our brain, but expands across our whole body. Our mind and the trauma it stores is deposited in every inch of our skin, in every fiber of our minds, in the marrow of our bones, and can be triggered by any one of our senses. Minutes after the tingling in my feet started to subside, I was able to open my eyes and see clearly again. Jim and I walked over to someone's backyard that had roses growing all over. They were beautiful. The grass was long and thin and had patches that bent in different directions. Jim said it looked like a bad haircut on a toddler. It was a good visual to help me come back to the present. I have scars on my abdomen and genitals. I have had repeated surgeries as a child that attempted to remove any remnants of my clitoris while simultaneously destroying any other tissue that got in the surgeon's path. I also, like my new friend, Saifa, who I met for the first time, not my husband, that was just like a euphemism, who I met for the first time in person at this conference, carries somatic scars that can't be healed by simply talking things out in therapy. As intersex activist Monty Mitchell, another hermaphrodite family member of mine, once stated, I felt like a head that toes around a body. The effects of the knife and of the shame that comes from secrecy are one and the same for us. Often what's left untouched by the scalpel is eventually affected by shame. The scalpel and shame work together, making us feel split. My plátanos maduros and passion fruit smoothie came and it was delicious. I'm super happy I stumbled into this Cuban restaurant because the brown waitresses are beautiful and have warm smiles. I count my lucky stars that I'm alive, even though the scars that prove I'm not dying also weigh me down, requiring I fight with everything I got not to give up. I'm thankful for my hermaphrodite family, my intersex family, that has come before me, and the herm youth that are coming after me, who continually inspire and give hope. I'm thankful for you, beautiful person reading this, and I know you will speak out against intersex genital mutilation for your children and your friends, families, and children. Thank you so much. Thank you. I see a present. Is it a present?
So on behalf of the College of Arts and Sciences and the writing program, we want to thank you for being such an engaging, key speaker throughout the day. We have really been blessed to have you and are honored to host you, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, dear. I need to go home.